Hello my fellow paint monsters, I'm Aga and this is Hungry for Paint, a channel about handmade watercolors. Today I would like to show you some watercolors from Letter Sparrow. I've been wanting to try these for a very long time now. This is one of the first handmade watercolor brands I've ever heard of, but they're quite expensive, so it took me a pretty long time to actually try these out. But I managed to get myself a set of samples, so it wasn't that pricey, and I have a good selection of colors to show you today. Now, these dot cards are quite old. They're over a year old, and the dots are quite small, so I was a little bit worried about how these would work. You might remember from some of my previous videos that I was talking about how really small sized samples sometimes do not activate properly. It's hard to get a really intense color out of them, so I wasn't sure what to expect here. But despite these samples being far from new and being rather small, they activated very well and very easily, and I was surprised with the intensity of color I was able to get out of these. These paints feel really juicy and rich. They flow beautifully. It's a real joy to be using them. And actually, after having tried these from dots, I'm really tempted to get myself some pans. This is how much I like them. These watercolors from Letter Sparrow are just so satisfying to work with. They're quite amazing. Some of these granulate quite a lot. The carmine granulates very heavily. The Milori blue has an exceptionally strong texture. Normally the name Milori blue is used to describe Prussian blues, and the only color similar to it that I've tried before in terms of shade and in terms of granulation is the Bleu de Feu from Rivlove. And here Milori blue as well has distinct particles in it. It is a bit grainy, it is a bit gritty, so if you don't like that, if you don't like feeling particles, you might want to avoid this one, but I think this one works pretty nicely. The grain is smaller sized and more regular shaped and sized than the paint from Rivlove. And so even though the grain does rub off after the paint has dried, it doesn't really leave visible traces on your artwork. So I don't really mind that much. Although I would have preferred it if the particles stayed on. I mean, if they're in the paint, they're supposed to be there. So I'd rather have them stay on the paper than brush off. So this is obviously not ideal for me, but at least you will not get dark stains and splotches where the particles were after they've rubbed off. Nitroso is an amazing green, and it's got a beautiful texture as well. It granulates quite heavily and I just love it, and it feels so rich. All of these for me have a bit of a luxurious feel to them. The burnt amber isn't very dark, but it feels luscious. I like it very much. These watercolors do not rub off the paper in a visible way, apart from Milori blue. Some of the colors do stain. They might transfer if you're working in a sketchbook. And the colors that are likely to be the offenders here are carmine, India blue, Milori blue, alizarin crimson, red iron oxide, and that's pretty much it. Nitroso green hardly leaves a trace on a sheet of paper you rub on top of it, and the rest seem to be fine. You can layer these watercolors and they work wonderfully. Only in the case of Milori blue, the edges are going to get a bit smudgy, and that's just to be expected with paints that are gritty. That's what happens. But all the other colors layer really well. And one more thing I like about Letter Sparrow is that the brand has gradually moved away from plastic. On the website you can still find some of these paints in plastic pans, but they're discounted, and for a good while now Letter Sparrow has only been offering paints in metal pans. So I think this is nice if you don't like plastic pans. These paints are quite pricey. A metal double pan, which is equivalent to a plastic half pan, costs about $12. A metal quarter pan, or here it's called standard, it costs about $8. There are mini pans as well, which seem to be roughly the volume of half of a quarter pan. So there are options to try out these paints relatively cheaply. And you can also get a dot card. It costs $17. The dots seem pretty small, but you get to try quite a lot of colors. Are the paints worth the money? I don't really feel it's up to me to decide, but I do feel that these paints are high quality, they handle marvelously, and personally I like them very much. Alright, this is everything I have for you today. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make a color mixing video for Letter Sparrow because I don't have much paint left. I'll see what I can do. I'd really love to show you some mixes using these colors. We'll see what I can manage. If you like this video, press the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you like what I do, you can always support Hungry for Paint on Ko-fi. Thank you for watching, and I hope you're going to have a great weekend. Bye bye.